All right. A very good morning to everyone joining in today live with us at the Savannah Community Headlines. It's another great Monday here in the Coastal Empire, and we're excited to partner with Carriage Trade Public Relations to host another episode of All Things Nonprofit, right? All Things Nonprofit. My name is Nipuna Banpola, and together with Tajay Francis, we will be your hosts, and we represent iVolunteer International, a tech nonprofit organization with the vision of creating 7 billion volunteers.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tajay Francis, and as Nipuna mentioned, I'm with iVolunteer International as well. Today's theme is leadership for impact. We know that it is important to develop the skill of lifelong learning so that way we can grow personally, but also create great impact for our communities. This is true in the nonprofit world as well. We need good, community-minded, and innovative leaders who can tackle today's most pressing issues in our community. So today, we have three amazing guests with us who will all talk about three amazing leadership programs available in the Coastal Empire region.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the three programs are the United Way, Black, Indigenous, People of Color, or BIPOC Leadership Symposium, the United Way Young Leaders Board Readiness Program, and Leadership Savannah.
So starting off with our guests, first of all, thank you for the work that you do in our community. Jay Jones, especially thank you, sir, to all the great work that you're doing. Now, I know that you all have very busy schedules, but just to kind of get the introductions rolling, I want to invite you all just to introduce yourself. Please tell us who you are, what you do now, and any other philanthropic endeavors that you're connected to in our community. Andrew, we'll start with you, and then Sherry and Jay, if you can follow up with introductions.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Cozy. I am a local realtor here in Savannah. From that, I am a part of the United Way, and I'm the chairman of the board of the Young Leaders with the United Way, and that is a group of 40 and under. And today I am here to speak to you about our board readiness program, which is something that we created to get more people involved with board participation in their volunteer endeavors.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's so nice to be with you this morning. I am Sherry Dean, and I've been volunteering for as long as I can remember. So this program and iVolunteer International is definitely near and dear. It started when I was an American Red Cross candy striper at Memorial Hospital. So it's been ingrained in me from a kid, and it's never stopped. During the day, I serve as program director at a local nonprofit, Park Place Outreach. And at Park Place, we provide emergency services and shelter to those most at risk in our community, and that's the youth. I serve in several different organizations in the community. I'm on the board of directors at Senior Citizens, Inc., Savannah Economic Development Authority. I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, which is a community service organization. Volunteer with Employability, United Way, also community investments, and the list goes on. I really believe in just being involved in the community and engaging and uplifting where we can.
And I guess I'll go ahead and start. I don't know why I have to follow after Sherry Dean. She's phenomenal. She's all over the community. I thought I worked hard, but Sherry's always been working harder than me. But my name is Jay Jones. I'm a former county commissioner here in Chatham County. I served for 4 years. I did what you call a certified county commissioner, meaning I've been through the tracks to understand how government works through and through. As far as organizations, I'm a member of the Leadership Savannah. Sherry Dean is in my class, so she's a member of Leadership Savannah as well. But within the structure of Leadership Savannah, it's a program I undermined a long time, and it just pretty much gives you a guideline across the board of how government works and how the community works and how networking and I talk about all the time how relationships are the backbone of how things really progress in our community. I think most nonprofits work best because of relationships, and getting in those relationships actually makes everything grow. Tajay is in the 100 Black Men with me. I'm a member of the fraternity here, been a member for almost 30 years now, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, which does a lot of community service work here. I was a person who founded the Collegian 100 through the 100 Black Men, which is a leadership program at all 3 local universities. And what it does is it gives African-American males the opportunity to see how leadership grows. And so it's a plethora of things that I actually have been involved in throughout my life, my time here in Savannah, Georgia. But I'm just happy to be a part of the platform this morning. I'm gonna get my water cooler out so we can make sure we have this real water cooler conversation. So I'm gonna turn it back over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. And, for our speakers for being here, right, early in the morning on a Monday. And, Jay just told us that he's in Colorado, so it's earlier to him than us. So thank you so much for being here. And I'm really glad you mentioned all of the associations that all of you work on, specifically relating to leadership, right? Because today's talk is about leadership for impact, how important leadership is, right, for personal and professional growth. And I just have one question. When you mentioned all the associations, I started wondering if you have the same 24 hours that we do in a day. There's so much going on at one point. So, let's go ahead and dig into your programs, right? So I'll start with Andrew. Tell us a little bit about the United Way Young Leaders Board Readiness Program. I had the opportunity to go through that yearly training and why it's important, right, to young professionals and even, professional community to go through the program.
Yeah, for sure. So we created the board readiness program last year. Nipuna was in our inaugural class, and it is a program that came to us through the United Way Community Investments specifically. They saw a need through their organizations and the boards that the members had, or the board members, was that there needed to be some diversity, and not only diversity in age, but diversity in color and orientation and background. And so we decided to create this board for our young leaders to help the community better engage with its actual community participants. Because that's one thing that had came up through several community investment conversations, was that the boards did not match the community. And that's part of our reason of creating this program, was to get these young adults into, give them the foundation to better serve on a board, because a lot of them don't even know what that means. And so we wanted to help create that program in order to give them that and give the community that.
Mm-hmm. And I think it really helped even me. I mean, starting I Volunteer and developing a board, I thought, okay, I knew, to a certain extent what entails in a board, what sort of responsibilities that come when a board member joins us. But when I went through the board readiness program, I was like, there's a lot that, I had to learn. And even starting from budgeting, starting from responsibilities, right? Identifying your strengths and responsibilities going into an organization, and then to budgeting and overseeing what are some of the responsibilities in a collective board, and a variety of things like that. So Tajay, over to you for the next program.
Yeah, before I get into the next one, I do want to say that, it's great that Savannah's taken the opportunity to look at getting people involved with some of our community issues. I know that that there was that opportunity to be a part of the United Way Young Leaders Board Readiness Program. Step Up Savannah actually had the Neighborhood Leadership Academy. And I was in a position where I had to pick and choose which one I could join, because some of the classes were at the same time. So hopefully next year, when you guys have your applications open, I look forward to being a part of that, Andrew. But yeah, just moving on. Sherry, I know you mentioned that you are with United Way partners through the BIPOC Leadership Symposium. And we know that it's a new initiative. Could you share with us what the vision is for this program?
Sure. Well, last summer, I attended a gathering of community and local nonprofit leaders at Forsyth Park. I, knew that it was going on, so I just took a walk there. And the event was organized in response to the challenging period of social injustice that we've been experiencing in the country. Nonprofit leaders were able to share their mission and how everyone can get involved. And I knew some of those leaders and had conversations with them about their work in the community. And what was evident was their commitment to their organization's mission and their passion to uplift the community. That was clear. What was also clear to me and admitted during some of these conversations was a need for a roadmap to build and grow a sustainable organization. So I shared my idea with a few people. One, Julie Wade at Park Place Outreach, she's the executive director, and she thought it was a great idea. Park Place is a wonderful place as far as service and to work. And so then I shared my idea with Brent Grant of United Way here of the Coastal Empire and to their community investments team. And as an employee of a nonprofit, I see all the wonderful work and the impact of the United Way and how they work with community organizations like ours to actually improve lives. And I was interested, though, in how nonprofits led by people of color engage United Way and other organizations to leverage resources, to leverage funding opportunities and skill development that would ultimately help them build their infrastructure and long-term viability. So United Way Community Investments offers what I'm talking about, programs and subject matter experts, in capacity building, leadership development, skill development for all nonprofits, organizations region-wide in our 4-county radius that surrounds Chatham County. So the question for me was, were these offerings that were widely available reaching everybody? And so that's what a group of local BIPOC leaders formed to do, make sure that these offerings of the United Way were reaching an inclusive audience. So we met for 5 months. We created this, BIPOC nonprofit leadership symposium, and application launched last week. And, we're hoping that, many organizations led by BIPOC leaders will jump on board, apply, and we believe there'll be some really good skills that they'll learn and networks that they'll make and relationships that they'll build.
Phenomenal. Sherry, I do want to say, and I know Jay Jones, you'll probably be able to talk about this a little bit more, but one of the interesting things I learned in Savannah is, I think for the past 10 or 20 years, the poverty rate has held steady at about 25%. So, whatever the community is doing to open up partnerships and opportunities for individuals like me, Napuna, and so many others, within a part of the marginalized communities, whatever it takes for us to be better leaders, to enact better change, I'm all for it. So Sherry, this is a great vision, and I love the work that you're doing in the Savannah community.
Thank you. I mean, we all, and at the end of the day, I feel like mostly everybody wants the same thing: to be happy, to enjoy life, to have a great quality of life, to be able to, eat, have a house, all those basic needs. And so that's why, the work of nonprofit organizations are so important, because that's what, we do. We're in the trenches, affording everybody, hopefully, just a better day today than they had yesterday. And Savannah has so many wonderful organizations with so, just impactful missions. And we just want to make sure that all the tools are available for everybody.
Absolutely.
And I'm already sort of drawing parallels, right, with the United Way Young Leaders Program and the BIPOC Leadership Symposium, as Andrew mentioned earlier, right? Getting more people engaged to diversify the boards, getting more, young professionals engaged, and the BIPOC Leadership Symposium training, BIPOC executive directors to get that infrastructure together, the support systems. I'm already drawing parallels, right? So let's hear from Jay Jones about Leadership Savannah. So, Leadership Savannah is a well-known, great program, right? And a lot of community leaders have gone through it. And how did Leadership Savannah, tell us a little bit about Leadership Savannah first, so all of our viewers will get to know about it more. And how did it contribute to you, to your personal professional growth, especially in your, public service career?
With Leadership Savannah, I think Sherry spoke on it very, very, very well and candid. I think what it did was it diversified. If anything, it allowed me to have relationships with people I wouldn't normally be in my circle. That's the first thing I really want to show out. And a lot of times, and I'm just going to be the candid one on the conversation. A lot of times, because I'm African American, I don't always get to be in, Caucasian circles or other circles out there in our community. It's not because I don't want it, it's because the opportunities aren't always available. And what Leadership Savannah and organizations like that do is it gives us an opportunity to commingle and mix with other races, other people of ages, learn what nonprofits are out there, what other organizations are out there. And so I think what Leadership Savannah did was it put a collective of about 40 people together in one room who wouldn't always normally have a conversation. Now, mind you, I knew Sherry since the 5th grade. I'm joking when I say that, but I've known Sherry forever. But it was other people in that room I did not know. And so it gave me an opportunity to blend with those individuals. And then what they specifically do is they make sure that they give you every sector of our community. They let us know about, the arts and culture with Savannah. They let us know about the military. They let us know about the government. They let us know about the port. And there was questions about the port. I'm born and raised here. I went off, came back. It's stuff that was about going over the port I didn't know, but I learned a whole lot about things going on. And so I think what Leadership Savannah does is it gives you an opportunity to go out there and branch out and get those relationships you wouldn't normally have. And so I think Sherry hit the nail on the coffin earlier when we said that we need to make sure we develop outside of our culture, outside of our circle. Poverty has existed probably going on 20, 25, 30 years in Savannah, Georgia. And the only way we're going to eradicate it or even lessen the brunt of what poverty does in our community is we have to see what's creating the poverty, what kind of nonprofits are actually successful and which ones aren't successful. And those that are successful, we got to make sure we get an influx of that into our community where we can keep breaking that cycle. Because I think in being born and raised here, once again, the cycle is the issue we're dealing with in poverty. And what's happening is one cycle is not broken, goes to a second cycle and to a third cycle. By the third cycle, if we're not identifying those issues by that third cycle, it becomes embedded into our community. And so I always say the best way we can break anything is create those relationships. And I think, and I'm gonna say it again, Andrew, we're doing good. Well, I keep up with y'all too, so don't think that I ain't gonna give you no shout out. I just ain't got to that point yet, but there's plenty of good things going on in our community. But the only way we can take care of our issues is we have to build relationships, and we have to. And what I call it, this is what I call it. We have to listen to the radio more than we watch TV. And if you understand what I mean by that is when we're doing radio talk, we don't see what color that person is. We don't know their background. We have to sit there and listen too long to figure out who they are. But if we do TV, we see them. And a lot of times when we see somebody of color outside of our own realm, we get uncomfortable. And I think the way we're going to fix our community is we have to get more uncomfortable conversations to tackle those issues. And I'll just stop at that.
I agree completely, and that's one of the things that we talk about when we talk about volunteering, right? So we are a volunteer advocacy organization, I Volunteer International, and one of the things we always put out there, expose, is that when people come to volunteer, right, they come for a cause, right? And sometimes they go there and they meet people who are different, who have different viewpoints, who are different from them, and then there they meet a circle, right? So one of the experiential learning opportunities, one of the growth opportunities that volunteering in itself have, that we tell the whole world, is you get to meet people who are not like you, who are not in your direct circle, right? So one of the things you mentioned in Leadership Savannah is one of the strengths is bringing people together who are different from different industries that they will not get to meet all the time in their day-to-day lives, but can reach out the aisle, right, and connect so that they'll understand their community a little better.
And it was crazy because, and Sherry could probably, it got bad for me because every time we're going to one of these things, I already knew everybody in the room, I already knew everything in the room. And they would always, the speakers would always say, well, Jay knows about this. And so that was uncomfortable for me in itself, because being a community leader in that position I was at, I just wanted to be a regular Joe. I just want to have a regular t-shirt on. You know, I'm here to learn just like everybody else, but I always had to do that. But you know, but having conversations in that room, when I talk to people, they was like, well, what does the county commissioner do? Well, what kind of, how does funding go with county? How does that affect nonprofits? And so by being there, I helped 4 or 5 people in that room say, hey man, this is who you need to connect here. This is who you need to talk to here. And so it was a blessing on both sides, not just me to sit there and learn, but also for me to be enlighten people about how government works, even on the county or the city level.
Yeah, I can definitely second that, talking about leadership, Savannah. And Jay, you were never a regular Joe. You will never be a regular Joe. So I don't care what t-shirt you wear. But, you know, one thing that Leadership Savannah did, it allowed everyone to leverage everyone's expertise. You know, talk about, you know, diversity. There were diversity of backgrounds, you know, professions, just a well-rounded group. And we have been able to like widen our network and actually help each other in various aspects just because we're part of Leadership Savannah. So I think that's the beauty of it. And then the relationships. We recently got back together as a large group, and just we went to actually Tubby's. One of the owners is part of
our class.
The owner is part of our class. Hi, Chelsea. So, so we went there and we just had a wonderful time. And those will be relationships that we'll have, you know, forever. And so that's the value of that. And, you know, it's the impact that's made through that relationship. So I could definitely back up what Jay said.
Mm-hmm. And I know Tajay has another engagement, so he may drop off the call in a little bit. But I want to take us back to the Young Leaders program. So Andrew, I know I was in the program, so it feels weird to ask you this. I've really enjoyed the program, and I've had some amazing sessions, right? That are my favorites. What were some of the sessions that were your favorites, and that you think really, really impacted and contributed, to the program?
Well, I think so. For our second year of doing the program, one thing that hurt us last year, I believe, is a personal involvement, and that was being that it was a COVID year, and our first year was solely online. You know, we like what exactly Sherry and Jay are talking about, that interaction of building that cohort atmosphere and that family atmosphere of, you know, that you have these people to count on. And so one thing that we've done this year is we've created, it is still more of a hybrid model, just because we felt that fit better with our applicants and their day-to-day world of, you know, doing a lunch seminar real quick as opposed to driving a meetup. And being young adults, sometimes they don't have those flexibilities in their careers to do those longer trips. So some of the ones that really stuck out to me was, I loved our very first session. It's called Board 101, and it literally goes 90 miles a minute talking about every single aspect of a board. And whether that is just the very beginning to the very end, it covers every single thing, but just like a brief little snippet. You know, it just highlights all the little stuff. But then one of my other ones that I really enjoyed was the diversity, equity, and inclusion one. It was so interactive between our participants, but then we had some members of the Savannah State Board do it. And they just made it so interactive, and it really got people thinking. And that's part of the reason why we wanted to do this, was to get people to thinking in our community, and get people to realize that, you know, filling a board seat is not just volunteering. It is a more of a commitment that you need to be ready to take on, because you're not only doing this just to say that you volunteer, you're doing this to make an impact in our community. And that is standing up for what you believe in at these board meetings and saying, you know what, no, we need to go a different direction. We need to be taking these steps as opposed to these steps. And that's part of the reason that is the reason why we created the board readiness program, is that we need more people in the younger adult field, excuse me, to step into these roles and to be willing to stand up for those that need their voice heard at this time.
And can I piggyback? I think Andrew, you're hitting the nail on the coffin, because what happened last year, and Sherry will say this with us, we're the first leadership class that ever had to deal with a pandemic too. So so we did a hybrid. I think we had a big pause in our class, we were in class and we had a pause. But I think, Andrew, what COVID did for us as far as the community is concerned, is that it opened up the opportunity for young leadership to step forward, because old leadership didn't have the mentality, and I'm not knocking the old leadership, but they didn't have that mentality or that charge to have to deal with a national pandemic or a global pandemic. And so I think that with young people getting in opportunities like this, especially in board leader situations, I say this all the time. If you always want to complain about government, and I can say this with affirmation, when you complain about government and you're saying it's stale or anything like that, the reason why government is stale is you look at the people who are charged with the government. It's probably the reason why if it's antiquated or anything like that, the reason why you don't have swings or you don't have things to help young people out is partly because you don't have young leaders. And to have training for young leaders in our community is very, very important. I don't know if it was Sherry or you that said it, but to make sure that leadership matches the environment you're actually trying to serve is just as important. And so what I mean by that is, if you're dealing with a 40% minority or 40% young, that also needs to be service on that board, because when the board structure is like that, then you're servicing all the community. But if your board is actually all older people or all of one kind of a race or color or anything like that, then you're not going to actually serve everybody who you need to. So that's why it's so important for nonprofits to identify board members that service the community they want to serve.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Especially reflecting your environment, right, in your board, because that's where decisions are made, especially for a nonprofit, right? And that's where budget allocations are made. That's where resource allocations are made. So it's really important to reflect that. And I think this is a perfect segue to the BIPOC, leadership program. So Sherry, I know I was chatting with Nola, and as you mentioned, you kind of brought this idea, right? And I know, even though maybe everything's not confirmed, but tell us a little bit about what are some of the topics that may be covered in the BIPOC Leadership Symposium.
Sure. Well, like I said earlier, there was a small group of BIPOC leaders that lead successful nonprofit organizations. We got together with Nola and Austin, and Jennifer was also there for guidance. And, what we wanted to make sure is that we were supporting and helping to support, build resilient and inclusive organizations that reflect the communities where we live, work, and play, like we all have been saying all day. So this is a robust, cohort-based nonprofit executive director development program. And all the offerings will be free and virtual. And some of the topics, let's talk about those. Some of the topics are like program development and delivery, like how to write KPIs, like what they are, strategic management, impact and information reporting. So that's one workshop. Another one, strategic plan development. How important is that? And how many organizations actually have a written, detailed, comprehensive strategic plan that they can go to not only write what their goals are, but actually how they plan to implement those goals and how they're going to monitor and evaluate and make changes along the way. So that's a key. Board governance, Andrew. That's another workshop, board governance. And not only that, meeting procedures. How many meetings have we been in And even though the mission is great, everyone's really into it, the meeting may, veer off focus. But by understanding proper meeting procedures, we can have a more effective meeting and ultimately, get more done and actually carry out the mission that we were formed to do. Marketing, social marketing, and PR. That's another, because that's so important, right? And so many organizations do that well. But then, there's some executive directors and leaders of all persuasions that are very mission focused, but may not have some of those technical skills that are really needed to make a big impact. So marketing and social media and PR, grant writing, that's another workshop that we'll have that's so important. Like, what are the funds? Where are the funds? How do we access those funds? And what's required of us as an organization in order to be able to be awarded some of those funds? So understanding all of those dynamics and, sustainability, that's also a key, because how do we make sure that the programs that we're developing and the audiences that we're serving, how do we make sure that that's sustainable for the long term? And then our final workshop is going to be a self-care workshop, because how many times, all of us, we are involved in many organizations, many of us have families, many of us work during the day as well, or at whatever point. Some people I know have more than one job. How do we take care of ourselves, so that we can be there for those that we're trying to help? So, it's a robust schedule of workshops. We're all very excited. I would like to say, in addition to myself and Lola, if I can give shout outs to our team members, we have Doris Williams, who's Executive Director of Rape Crisis Center, Marcel Stewart, Executive Director of One Seed, Destiny Bradshaw, Executive Director of Ready to Connect, Alicia Johnson, Executive Director of Step Up Savannah, and Zelonia Williams, Executive Director of Future Minds Adult Education and Literacy. Talk about a powerhouse. They all are well trenched, involved in many different aspects in the Savannah community, and really building economic mobility. And like Tajay said earlier, our poverty rate hasn't changed in over 3 decades. It's still in the mid, but 22.9 or so, 23%. And all of these organizations and these leaders recognize that it takes a collective and collaboration and working together and hard skill development, those technical skills, in order to make an impact here in Savannah. And we all love Savannah, and we all want Savannah to be able to support all the residents, everybody, and for our communities to thrive. So that's loosely, what we're planning.
And it goes on to show at the end, when you mentioned all of those people that are engaged in the program, it goes back to, bringing experts together, bringing local community leaders together, right? So I loved hearing that, especially that last session, self-care. I don't know if it's unique to the nonprofit industry. I don't think so, but I feel like, working through nonprofits and really, trying to take in the burden of the community and also working through it, right? And then trying to create those outcomes that we are passionate about really can, take a toll on you, right? And self-care is really, really important. That was an extraordinary lineup. So thank you, Sherry, for your vision and for all of those other people that you gave shout out to coming together to put this together, right? So for those who are looking, right, pass this message around. I know the Young Leaders Board Readiness Program application deadlines are over, right? But keep in touch with the United Way, volunteer with them so that you can apply next year. And definitely the BIPOC Leadership Symposium as well. Pass the message around. If you know an executive director, right, they need to apply. But my last question, I think this is very, very fitting, goes to Jay Jones, right? So there's a diverse viewership from Savannah watching today, right? And even if they're not live right now, this video is going to get saved on Facebook. So a lot of people in Savannah will watch it. So do you have any advice for our viewers, right, who are thinking or interested about getting engaged in the community, right? How can they start? How can they engage? What are the opportunities there in the community?
Well, I think the first thing is to get involved. I think a lot of people are sitting back on the couch waiting to think somebody's just going to deliver an answer for them, and they don't get involved. And I'm in my hand came across the screen because earlier today I was screenshotting y'all websites and everything like that because I usually do this on my Mac, but I couldn't find it fast enough, so I'm doing it on my phone. But I like the two programs that have been introduced here. I'm going to share it on my network because I think part of the piece is making contact with individuals. We sometimes don't get into those niches that we should be trying to get into. And it's not a byproduct of the two dynamic people who's speaking with me. Sometimes it's just we just don't get into those niches. And so what I try to do is make myself more available to those niches that need this kind of exposure because in that we get better at it. And I also want to say this, Sherry, all that stuff you said earlier was phenomenal because sitting in that big chair where you had to make decisions on who you're giving money to, a lot of those situations that you spoke of are prime situations. They didn't know how to do a KPI. And when I try to tell somebody who's an executive leader, this is what a KPI, it's not my job to teach you how to do KPI. It's my job to approve the money. And if I got to teach you how to do a KPI and approve the money, I'm going to look bad for myself. So, making sure that we have programs out here who can teach how to do strategic planning, KPIs, and all this other strategic planning is probably one of the biggest other things. How are you going to get your revenue when you got COVID-19 going? I mean, how are you going to continue to be successful? And so in those executive leadership roles, yes, as much as I want to put more executives in those kind of committees and thresholds, we still have to make sure we have training. So those things that were both mentioned from both of the speakers before me are phenomenal because those are the things that I see a lack of as a person who approved those kind of budgets or a person who sat on Chatham Area Transit Board or EOA's board or boards that deal with the national scenes on NACO and boards that deal with the ACCG. Sitting on those boards, you see that a lot of times you have a great idea that's pitched to me, but because you don't know the long-term effects of how you're going to do it, what you're going to do, I can't give you the money. And it's not because I don't want to give you the money. It's because I don't want to give you the money and a year later when you're asking for an annual re-up, you haven't changed or done anything to the population you said you were going to associate and fix. So I think what I would do is if we can make both of these programs annual programs, we can do it 4 times a year. And I know a lot of times it's capital that gets in the way of that. Anything I can do from my preview, I'll be glad to help on that because I'm one of those people who are an animate learner. I always want to learn, and I always want to take a problem and find a solution to that problem because it's too easy for us to complain about things in our community. It's too easy. It's too easy to say we got 25 years of poverty. Oh, well, there's nothing we can do about it. It's a lot more fun for me to say we got 25 years of poverty and here are the problems. Can we find a nonprofit to identify those problems and fix them, but make sure we have a strategic plan and all those other narratives that we need? We're not just throwing money at situations. And I think when you get in government, that's what we always get viewed at. We just throw money at the situation and it fixes it. Nah, it's not that easy. We need to come up with hardcore solutions. And we also understand that we got in this situation 25 years. It ain't going to fix itself tomorrow. But if we can just see somewhat of a decrease of that problem, and I think diversity is probably one of the biggest things we can ever do, is not be afraid to have candid, hardcore conversations with individuals outside of your normal circle. And a lot of times we see money get put into certain potholes and we don't see it getting put into that community it was supposed to serve. And so and a lot of times we see that, but we don't understand the struggle about why that might be persistent. It might just be a point of we just didn't have ways to get into those cycles or those communities. And so all those people that Sherry spoke of earlier, I know all of them personally. They all do wonderful things. And Andrew, I'm going to get your information. So next time we have this, I'm going to talk about Andrew all day long next time we talk, because I don't think that I'm doing Andrew as much justice as he's probably doing. But Andrew, you won me by just saying you have a young leadership association, because that is my, Sherry will tell you, that is my crying hope, that we take care of our young leadership, because the only way we're going to make our world better, or our world better, is we identify young people to make the world better. I'm not old, but I'm getting there. And my thing is, I don't want to be trying to fix the problems that my child has to deal with. hopefully most of those problems are already fixed by the time he gets to that age where he can serve his community. So he's not quite young to be in the program, Andrew, but I'll make sure I sign him up in about 5-10 years. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So, well, thank you so much for all three of our speakers for your amazing expertise and contributing today, and also being here early on a Monday morning, volunteering with us and sharing your information with the community. That's so important, right? So, so we really appreciate you and the work you do in the community. For our viewers, Leadership Savannah, BIPOC Leadership Symposium, and the United Way Young Leaders Board Readiness Program are amazing leadership opportunities for you. And we encourage you to visit their websites to learn more and share it with share it with your network, just like Jay Jones just mentioned. Share it to the network so that more people get to know about it. So with that, I want to thank our three speakers again. Thank you so much for the work you do and for being here. And we want to wish you a great Monday and a fabulous week ahead. Thank you and goodbye.